Sabine Simmons.
Nice to meet
Doctor.
you.
This is Mayor Fuller.
Nice
Yeah.
to
I heard
meet
him
you.
introduce you the other night.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Arturo, I can't stay.
Okay, no, I heard.
And
You're busy, man. I know.
I just got back from Montgomery.
Okay.
Been down there 2 days.
Are you
I'm
saving
gonna
the
watch
world?
y'all. I'm gonna watch y'all on YouTube.
Okay.
I'm always glad to escape. Now they told you about
Yeah,
You might.
I heard from David. Yeah, yeah.
Good,
So
good.
we tested it, and we're gonna test it again in just a
Good,
second, make sure.
good.
So, what did you think, though? I didn't have a chance to talk.
I thought
to
it was
you,
good.
I thought it was good. Open, honest discussion. It wasn't like a bashing
I wish
session.
you'd been look at the time.
Yeah, you always look for that. Yeah.
Look like you were happy. And so, Mr. Hernan's back again.
Uh-huh.
That's good.
Second take. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But I thought it was good. I thought there was some good comments.
Open discussion, yeah.
And what'd you think?
No, I did. We were discussing, there was some good open comments, honest comments. And again, it wasn't like a bashing and complaining. People gave their really, really honest thoughts and feelings. And I thought we came up with some good recommendations about doing some stuff. So, yeah, I was cool.
Well, Arthur, on the survey I filled out, the only thing I struggled over was about the employees.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got to thinking about that. And a friend of mine, back a few weeks ago, said, if the city hires based on demographics,
It can't, yeah.
said, and of course, it'd be impossible to do,
Yeah,
because then you get to discriminate
yeah.
sure enough.
Well, and that's a quota, and you
So
can't do that.
then they said, does this mean if the white population is 60% or 55, does that mean that 55% of the football team is going to be white? And they said, what about the basketball team?
Yeah.
And I said, probably not.
Yeah, no, really what that, we're gonna actually go with the survey this time, just to make sure everybody's clear. Really what that goes after though is, effort about reaching out to these minority groups, because just so you know, and you and I, we've had this conversation before, in some communities, not black, but in some communities, they'll say, okay, well, we don't get enough African Americans applying, and then we ask them, well, like, what are we doing to reach those populations?
yeah.
So that's really what we're getting at there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll make that clear tonight. So, yeah.
And you know, one of our challenges on police officers, of course, I tell you, the number one prospect is a black female police officer. But when we get one, everybody tries to hire them away.
Are you thinking about applying?
Captain Healy, we'll put in a good word with Captain Healy.
She's real good with horses, so if you had something else, she could use horses and patrol the area.
We hadn't had a mounted patrol, but maybe we'll start one. And what'd you earn your PhD at?
I went to Argosy University.
Well,
Argosy University. Its closest campus is in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah,
So that's where I got my PhD, and it's in organizational leadership.
okay,
yeah,
good.
she's originally from Pasadena, California, and she graduated from her undergrad from Alabama State University.
Good.
So I taught there about 10 years.
Well, I was in Pasadena several years ago when Alabama played Texas for the national championship.
I remember that.
And, yeah, it's the first time I'd ever been in the stadium. And it's different from our stadium because there's nothing underneath.
Right.
You know, you have to go outside. But I was awestruck just to be there.
That's my home.
Yeah, a lot of history. You probably did you ride a horse in the Rose Parade?
I didn't, but I used to volunteer to help create them, put the flowers on them and things
Oh.
like that. Yeah.
You know,
Fun thing to do.
Spain used to play tennis too. She was really good. I think she had an injury, but I think that she probably would have given Serena Williams a run for money back in the day. I'm not sure about now, being honest, but back in the day she was really good. I think you were recruited.
I still play.
Weren't you actually recruited at Alabama State to play tennis? Yeah, yes. She was really good. So she did an excellent job.
Well, if you're going to do the welcome, you can use this mic.
Sure.
If you're going to have her mic.
Sure.
Or I already turned it on. Yeah, so you don't have to touch it. You can just talk when you're ready.
You want me to go ahead and give them the 2-minute warning? Is that okay with you? Okay. We'll give them a couple more minutes, man. We'll start the case soon. Sorry. Okay. Testing. Testing, test. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Hi, everyone. This is our official 2-minute warning. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Again, if you don't have a survey, there should be one out on the table. And if you don't have something to write with, I think we have some writing utensils out there. Also, the restrooms are out here to the right, and we have some coffee and water for you all. So just giving you a heads up, we will get started in about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Got it live and then. Good. That was strange. So long. Ladies and gentlemen, before Dr. Menifee comes and starts the program, I wanted to welcome you all. Councilwoman Pitts, glad to see you. Ms. Stringer, glad to see you. You know, Dr. Menifee, you must have really done a great job, because I see that Banks Herndon is back for round 2. And he brought somebody with him.
I see that.
So, Margot, glad to have you. Erica, glad to see you. Folks, I'm not going to be able to stay with you. I wanted to apologize in advance, but I'm going to go home and watch this on YouTube. So, Taylor, make sure it's a good feed. And but I want to thank you for participating in this. This is the second of 5 listening sessions that we'll have next. We won't have one next Tuesday night, but the following Thursday,
Yes, sir.
which will be the 25th,
right, Taylor?
a week from tonight,
Second.
22nd. And that'll be Ward
One.
Ward 1? I thought Ward 1 was on the 27th or 28th, but Well, regardless of that, we'll be back here a week from tonight with another listening session. I participated Tuesday night. I thought it was excellent. Your input is going to be very, very important so that we can get an idea. Dr. Menifee and his folks are going to compile all of your responses, and then it'll be something they'll present to me and to the city council for us moving forward. But Dr. Menifee, I appreciate your help. Thank you for doing this. Thank all y'all for being here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor. Certainly appreciate it. I just want to say, first and foremost, I'm so happy to see the city of Opelika moving in this direction by hosting these diversity and inclusion sessions. So I certainly want to thank the mayor. I want to thank all the city council members. I want to thank Lee, Taylor, Natalie, Joey, everyone that put an effort towards making this happen. I certainly appreciate you. Can we give those individuals a round of applause, please? Thank you. Diversity. Diversity is something that impacts us each and every day. It's so very important to our way of life, to the way in which we interact with each other, to the way in which our businesses succeeds. And so it's very important to us. And so tonight, we're going to really have a serious discussion about diversity. And it's not just going to be a discussion. The end point is not the discussion, let me put it that way. This is the beginning. Our goal is to gather up information and to take the information back and present it to the mayor and to city council, and then to advocate for them to move forward with some of those initiatives. Can't say exactly what initiatives they will agree to move forward, but our job is to definitely do a good job of giving this information to them so they will have some not only observations and what we capture here, but also some recommendations for the city. So at this time, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Arturo Menifee. I know most of you all, lifelong resident from Opelika. I also have with me my good friend and colleague, Dr. Sabine Simmons. Dr. Simmons is actually from Pasadena, California, but she's been here in Alabama for about 15, 16 years. She lives now in Montgomery, Alabama, and she is actually going to get things started off tonight. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Sabine.
Hello, everyone. So thank you all for coming. We are going to have a discussion about diversity. I'm going to identify some concepts for you to help you to complete this survey so that we can get those recommendations on up to the mayor. So diversity. Diversity in its most simple form is differences. So as a leadership consultant, diversity is a very important aspect of leadership. When you lead any organization, whether it be a school, a city, a business, diversity is an important aspect of leadership because it's a representation of the people within that organization. So when we talk about diversity, we're talking about all different aspects of diversity, whether it be based on age, race, sex, all those different types of differences that we share. So you can see the definition up here on the slides. So keep that in mind. Diversity is important because it has a synergistic effect. My experiences alone, or my knowledge alone may not be that powerful. But when we couple it with experiences from people with different backgrounds, from different areas within organizations, it has a synergistic effect. So that's why it's so important to leadership. That's why we're talking about it tonight, because of the synergistic effect it has when we take differences and put them together in a positive way. Okay. So diversity and inclusion. We added the definition of inclusion because has anybody ever heard of the diversity and inclusion department within different organizations? It's a really big thing. It's really important. The inclusion are the efforts being made to reach out to, let's say, different populations so that those populations can be represented in leadership or by the workforce. Okay? So the purpose, what is the purpose? The purpose is to embrace all of these different aspects that we share. So we're talking about differences, and inherently we're talking about similarities, okay? Because although we're all different, we all have common interests. We all, for example, live in Opelika. That's a commonality, right? So although we're different, we have to find ways to include and not discriminate based on our differences, right? So, and another purpose is giving equal access and equal opportunities. So this means not discriminating based on our differences, okay? This is very important. We have federal laws based on non-discrimination, right? All right, so it's survey time. You all should have a survey already that you picked up outside. If you don't have one, let me know. Okay, and you all have something to write with. I'm going to go through the questions quickly so that just to make sure that we all understand them. Let's be thoughtful. Let's give our feedback. We're going to use this data to create recommendations and see that, and hopefully they'll be, implemented to better the city of Opelika. Okay, so this is a Likert scale, so you can, for each question, you can write in the number to which you agree with. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest, if you agree with this statement, then you probably want to put somewhere near a 10. So you just write in your number. The first question is, how would you rate race relations in Opelika? The second question, how would you rate your interactions? So take a moment to think about reflect on your interactions with the city of Opelika officials and employees. How well does the city of Opelika celebrate and promote diversity? Number 4 gets at the city's effort in recruiting qualified, diverse people. So it's not looking at, hiring based on race, but it's looking at reaching out toward those different populations to attract qualified individuals within diverse populations. So it's looking at the city's effort in that area. Number 5, you can write in your concerns if you have any particular concerns regarding race relations. If you have any recommendations, that's for number 6. If you have, if you can think about 2 activities or anything you can think of to improve race relations here in Opelika. Number 7 takes us back to our Likert Scale. How do you feel about the commitment to diversity here in the city? And on the back, we're collecting demographic information to kind of help identify, where our information is coming from. Okay? So take a few moments to finish filling that out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
And as you finish, if you'll just raise your hand, we'll come around and collect that information. We want to go ahead and collect those surveys. I know sometimes people leave early, but we really want to do a good job of collecting the surveys so we can capture your information. Yeah, he has. Okay. Thank you. Give you a couple more minutes. It's very important. We really want to capture your thoughts. And it's important to hear from you vocally, but we also want to see what you write, how you feel about some of these different categories. So thank you for doing this for us.
And if you're joining on YouTube, there is a link that you could fill it out there. Just so y'all know.
Very well. Okay. All right, I think we're ready. If you're still working, that's okay. Just as soon as you finish, if you'll raise your hand, Captain Healy will help us to collect those. But for the sake of time, because again, I know you all have had a long, busy day, we want to go ahead and get the discussion started. So let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, so just very quickly, I'm going to go over some things regarding diversity. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. As a former professor and educator, I can get to going and I can continuously keep going. I don't want to do that tonight. I want to hear more from you as opposed to hearing from me, because your voice really matters, and we want to capture all of that various information. So just very briefly, I'm going to tell you some of the benefits of diversity, and this is according to research. So why does diversity matter? These are 4 primary things that through all my research, through all the years, I consistently see these 4 things. Skills and talents. Again, diversity brings different skills and different talents to the table. If you're working with an organization or a group, people have different roles and responsibilities. Those talents are going to be needed for the overall success of that group, of that organization. New way of thinking. If you've ever had the opportunity to participate in problem-solving activities or working in various communities or organizations, you know that we deal with problems and issues of concern all the time. And in doing so, we have our background, we have our way of thinking, but there's always another way of thinking that could possibly help us to resolve that issue as well. So a new way of thinking is extremely important. Different experiences. That's one of the best things about having a diverse group, is that you will be able to learn about different experiences. This individual, he may be from this community, but he may have different experiences from you, and so those experiences matter because again, it helps you to learn more about him or her, helps you to learn more about his or her culture. I think that's extremely important. And then last but certainly not least, unique cultural backgrounds. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to travel to South Africa. While I was there in South Africa, I was looking at some of the things, that some of the structures that they had in place there, and many of those families, they would literally live off of $3 a day. And so you would see how they would do various things to save money. And so again, that was a cultural thing. Would have loved to have done some of those things like back in the States, but for the most part, we learned, and we've actually worked with several other communities throughout the country and taught them some of those same principles that we learned there from this community there in South Africa. So again, very important. So those are the 4 main things that I consistently keep seeing. So also, again, just another listing, but this proves, and again, this is scientific research information that diversity works. Positive learning outcomes, that's very important, especially for our students. Students that grow up or that are in a more diverse community or classroom, they tend to have better learning outcomes. Increased exposure and engagement. This is really about a harmonious situation within our community. People that are exposed to different cultures, different people, they tend to interact better, they tend to understand each other better, and it makes for a more harmonious process there within that particular community. Improves cognitive and critical thinking skills. Again, going back to students that participate in group projects that were able to work with diverse groups of individuals, those groups tended to score better than groups that were not as diverse. And so again, that's your cognitive and critical thinking skills. This is one that I really love, and this is so very important, especially for our youth, is that they're better prepared for the world. You know, when you have the opportunity to only interact with one group or one race, and then you get out into the world, you may not understand all the nuances and things that happen with another race or another culture. So by being in a diverse community, you have the opportunity to interact with these different races, you learn about these different cultures, and then you are better prepared to go out here and to succeed in the world. Businesses, expanded creativity and problem-solving skills. That definitely works with the businesses. Better decision-making skills. Again, when you're bringing people together, you have different ideas, different points of views, and all of those things are going to help you in terms of making better decisions. One very big one, especially for those that are in business, is increased profits and productivity. When someone starts, you spend a lot of money to hire people, to train them, and then if that individual quits or leaves not too long after that, that's a cost. That's a business cost and expense. But if individuals are there, they're trained properly, they feel like they're valued, they feel like they are a part of your organization, they're going to stay. And not only are they going to stay longer and be more productive, but they're going to help others to be more productive as well. And essentially, that business is going to benefit from that. And that really goes towards the next one as well: enhanced employee engagement and retention. And then last but certainly not least is improved company and community reputation. So very important. I told this story at the last session, but I'll tell it again quickly, very briefly. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to go and work for a university in Louisiana. And so my wife, my daughter, and I, we went over there. And while we were there, I just did not feel like that was a welcoming community for my family. The pay was great, the opportunity was great, but I just personally could not see myself placing my family in that particular situation because it did not feel like a welcoming community. And so I hear that a lot. I work with professors all across the country, and if they go somewhere and if they don't feel welcome, most likely they would not take that job. And so again, being in a diverse community will help you in terms of recruiting individuals, communities, organizations, what have you. They'll be more apt to coming to your community because of its diversity. So it's very important. So diversity is important. We've talked about that. These are some diversity statements. I'm not going to read them, but I just wanted you to see these statements. Every agency that I researched, they all had diversity statements. So these are some of the more common ones that we're familiar with: Google, AT&T, United Way. Any university in this country will have a diversity statement. Any school or school system in this country will have some type of diversity statement. So diversity is important. So we've proven that it works. We've proven that they're all committed or supposedly committed to diversity. Next slide. And these are some symbols of diversity throughout our country. I'm sure we're very familiar with these. The U.S. Constitution, the preamble, we the people in search of a more perfect union. That's us. Declaration of Independence. We've heard this time and time again. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. E pluribus unum, out of many one. That's on the money. So we're probably familiar with that. We've all heard about the Statue of Liberty. Of course, the White House is known as the People's House. And for many, many years, especially when I was back in middle school and high school, we always heard this term, melting pot. The United States of America was the great melting pot, the land of immigrants that welcome everyone. The 14th Amendment provides equal protection under the laws. Many Supreme Court rulings and various songs, Star Spangled Banner. And so again, it appears that diversity is an American tradition. So I've proven that diversity works, it's important. I've proven that most companies, entities, communities all have diversity statements. I've shown you how we have diversity symbols throughout our community, but I have this question for you. Is there a diversity and inclusion problem in America? Don't answer that. I think we're going to get to answering that, but to me, it really boils down to one word, and that's people. In many cases, we have the laws on the books, we have the Supreme Court rulings, we have many, many other things that are already out here that would suggest, as I have just recently shown you, that diversity really matters. But for some odd reason, we keep having these issues in regards to diversity throughout our country. So people, that's going to be the defining word. So for today's session, just so you know, I really need this from you. I need for us to participate in order for us to really learn and to really gain information and knowledge from you, to learn about your personal experiences. We need for you to participate. We need for you to be honest. I think that goes without saying. We want honest feedback. Yes, everyone may not agree with you. That's quite okay. People may feel differently than you. That's quite okay. But again, we want to hear your honest opinion. And I think we're all I think we're all strong enough and capable of understanding your vantage point. So we want you to be honest. We also want you to listen. Listen to other people. I don't know what your interaction is regarding diversity or what your thoughts are, but listen to other people. And then the other thing is to try to learn from those various comments, learn from those situations, and see how they could maybe benefit you or benefit something that we're trying to do in the city of Opelika. And then last but certainly not least, respect. I think, we can disagree, you can feel a certain way, but I think we can all respectfully agree to disagree. So, but before I begin and really get into some of the questions that I have, I just want to let you know that I always want to see what people's values are, because you can tell a lot about an individual, about a group, about a community based on their values. And so you probably can't see this, but I just wanted you to have an idea of some of the values. I work with groups all across the country, and we'll typically do a values exercise. We can't do that today, but just look at some of those values, and you all know what your values are. Just let me know, if you don't mind, what are some of your values, and you can just say them at will, just whenever you feel like it. I just want to hear something. What are some of your values from the audience? Equality, very good. Equality. Empathy, equality, empathy, yes. What are some other values? What'd you say? Honesty. Life. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Anything else? So life, honesty, empathy. Family, yes. Family. Any more? Okay. Well, again, we will. I like to just start off with that because, again, it's very important to me. Values are really the core of who we are. When I tell you I turned down that job, it was because of my values. I was thinking about my family. Even though I was going to be traveling all over the country and making a great salary, I just did not want to place my daughter and my wife in that particular situation that was unwelcoming to us. And also the school system, in my opinion, was not up to par. So I didn't want to send my daughter to a school system that I didn't feel it was up to par. So even though the money was great, opportunity was great, I said, no, these are my values, and this is what I truly value. And so I decided not to do that. But the reason why I did that was right here. Our values, they help us in terms of making decisions. They help us to focus or prioritize on what's important to us, like I was telling you about my family. And this is one we really all ought to pay attention to. Our values play a part in how we treat each other. If you say your value is centered in faith, most faiths that I have researched, I'll talk about treating people fairly, and by equality that we mentioned earlier. If you talk about family as your value, well, I want people to treat my daughter fairly. I want people to treat my daughter nicely. They may have disagreements, but I don't want her to be disrespected. And so in me dealing with someone else, I think the same way. I don't want to disrespect anyone else because I don't want anyone else to disrespect me or my family. So again, think about those values. And then the last one is when values are shared, they build cohesion. And that's essentially what we want to do. We want to build cohesion and set standards for the group. So we want to set standards by saying, hey, we don't agree with that, or I don't like that, but I can respect you. And now what can we take and kind of put together and actually move the ball forward? What can we take and help this city or this community to accomplish the things that we're trying to accomplish? And so in saying that, I just want to say my goal today is to listen to you. And I want to say to you, I am your provocateur. I want to provoke thought. And so if I ask you a follow-up question to one of your comments, hey, I'm not trying to spark anything, any kind of conflict or anything like that. I'm just trying to spark conversation because it's really important. And if we're truly going to accomplish what we want to accomplish with diversity, we really got to get at the core of some of these issues. I think it's time for us to get to the core of some of these issues. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to kind of start national, like big topics, and then we're going to work our way down to the city of Opelika. And just ask the moderator, because again, like I said, I can be a little long-winded, but Dr. Simmons and Taylor are going to help keep me on track. I appreciate that. And I will keep the conversation moving. So if you have a comment, feel free to express yourself. I welcome that. But make a statement, and then let's make sure that we have ample time for other people to come in as well. Okay? All right, so let's begin. Not the organization. What does the term or phrase Black Lives Matter, what does that represent or mean to you? What does that represent or mean to you? And if you will, I have a microphone for you when you get ready to speak. So, Black Lives Matter. What does that term or phrase represent or mean to you? Not everyone at once, okay? I'm sure someone has a comment on this. Yes.
To me, it just means valuing Black lives.
Okay, yeah. Valuing Black lives. I agree with that. Anyone else? Do you want me to just call on someone? Would that work? Oh, come back here. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Mr. Willis, how you doing, sir? Okay.
To me,
Yeah, we hear you.
it means equality. Everyone should be treated the same, regardless of the race, color, and everyone should be given the opportunity, especially if they are in a position the same as the other person. Once again, regardless of their race and where their background, who they are, and who they know and who they don't know.
Yes, appreciate those comments, Mike. And also, too, we're asking you to speak on the microphone because we are on YouTube, and that's the only way they can pick us up is by the microphone. So, any other comments? Okay, then we'll come to you next.
For me, it means that we have a problem where we don't value everybody.
Okay.
And since that's the problem, we have to have some kind of definitive process to get to valuing people. And from where I sit in America today, Black lives do not matter because so many of them are being taken by so many entities, and that makes for a need, it seems to me, to have an integral conversation
Yes.
about what it means.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
I think is it on?
Yes, ma'am.
I think for me, it also references the frequency with which young Black men are killed by police officers. And it developed out of young Black men being killed by police officers, I think. And so for me, it's equality, but it's also that that Black lives matter.
Right. Yes. Anything else? Okay.
Excuse my sitting, but I consider Black Lives Matter to start in Black communities.
Okay.
Even though there are assaults by police officers, we still have to look at what is going on in our neighborhood. When Joey and Michael have been together all their lives and end up taking each other's life. See, that's where we got to start. All the things that we've made in this life so far start at home. And if we're not increasing the love for one another and camaraderie in our community, how can we expect to be anywhere else?
Yeah. So pretty much start at home, start in your own community, but then still, we want other people to recognize that
Exactly.
Black lives do matter
Exactly right.
because that's still another issue as well. So good. Any other comments? I just think this is a perfect conversation, and I'll tell you some things quickly, and then if you have a comment, you can feel free to chime in. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. No, you go ahead and start before I offer my comments.
A lack of respect
Okay.
for
A
cultures.
lack of respect for culture. Gotcha. Anything else? Yeah, I have a colleague that lives in the Milwaukee area, and he lives not too far from a town that is predominantly white. I would say that, I think he told me the town was about 95% white. And he said he was driving through this town one day, and he saw several students, white students, holding up Black Lives Matter signs. And he said he had never seen anything like that before, so he got out and he started talking to him just because that's who this guy is. He's a researcher, he loves information. And so he said he was talking to the young lady and said you could tell she was just so passionate, almost had tears in her eyes. And basically the young lady was, he asked her why she was out there and how did she feel about the movement and things like that, Black Lives Matter movement. And she said that she was primarily just tired. She was tired of carrying the burden for past generations not doing what they were supposed to do. She was saying if generations in the past have truly addressed this race relation or diversity issue in America, they or we would not be dealing with it now. She certainly saw the need to save Black Lives Matter because, you know, she didn't think that they mattered as much as other lives. And so this was her way of saying, hey, I'm tired of carrying that negative stereotype. Like some people have various stereotypes of white individuals, and she said that I'm tired of carrying that stereotype. That burden is just too heavy for me to continue to carry. And she did not want to do it any longer. So she said this was her way of promoting diversity and actually trying to get some positive change. I thought that was remarkable. And she very engaging conversation. She told me some more, but again, I just thought that was a great conversation. Yes, ma'am, do you want to say something? Right here. Yes, I thought you raised your hand.
I was just gonna say that, Black Lives Matter started from not just recently. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter started from way back in the, back in slavery.
Okay.
And it has, to me, that's where it started from. And it seemed like we're just having a hard time with trying to get it together to know that we are all people.
Yeah.
And we are all people that wants respect.
Sure.
And we are all people that wants equality in our lives.
Absolutely.
I agree that some of us does not do the right thing, but that's with everybody in every race.
Every group, yes.
And it's just time for us to come together.
Okay.
It's time for us to come together and have more love in our lives.
Yes.
Have more respect.
That's great.
Just treat each other better.
Yeah. That's a starting point. Okay. Do you have something? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback on that. When it comes to Black Lives Matter, we do understand that racism is institutionalized. It was developed, the police departments, unfortunately, the government agencies, educational systems, all of those systems at a time Black people were not a part of, could not be a part of, hospitals, separate jails, all the institutes throughout the United States of America, they were separate. And so racism comes from a place where Black lives did not matter. You were property. Black people were property at one time. And so in order to try to change that and reverse it, we've come a long way, got a long way to go. And so I think Black Lives Matters, it came out of because of the incidents that have occurred with the unfortunate police officers and a lot of Black males and Black females. But it comes from a place of institutionalism where Black lives just did not matter. And so we're trying to reverse that.
Yes.
And like Ms. Stringer said, it's going to have to come from a place of love.
It has to. And you know, it's hard to change hearts and minds and behaviors, and that takes a while. Just like I was showing earlier in the presentation, we have the laws and the policies on the books already, but for whatever reason, you know, we're still having a hard time kind of translating that into real action. So, but let me flip the question up. We talked about Black Lives Matter. What about white privilege? What does that term mean to you, and is it real? What do you think about the words white privilege? Is that real, or what is it? How do you all feel about that? White privilege. Anyone? Any discussion? There we go. Yes. All right. White privilege.
White privilege.
Yes, sir.
You know, you got people that hear Black Lives Matter, and you got people that hear white privilege, and they take it as an insult. It's not. It's a reality. And what I mean by that is this country is built on a separation, and that separation resulted in one part of that puzzle being down here and the other part being here. And I grew up in San Francisco. First time I heard about slavery or racism was when I saw Roots. And I tell people that, and they don't believe it. My dad's from Alabama, and I didn't hear about what he faced until he was almost on his dying bed. College graduate, couldn't get a job. 26 years in the Navy, couldn't get out the kitchen. And it sounds like a cliche, but that's the truth. And here I am with 3 sons, and I see all this stuff that's going on. I wish we could all get along. Somebody said, you got one of the minds where you just think we can get along. It ain't possible. I hope that it's possible.
I do too.
But to the question, white privilege, it's not an insult directed at anybody.
Sure, absolutely.
It's an impact of the history of this nation. You know, there's an advantage on one side. It's been there, it's still there. It's not a scar, it's a reality. And I think that, you want to know what I signed on that paper, I just said that I hope that this meeting and these type meetings bring something to a city that is very nice. I've been here 2.5 years. Like the heck out of Opelika. I hope to stay here for a while.
Sure.
But I would like to see some inclusion so we're not having this same battle 2 years from now, or things settle down and then there's another killing somewhere, then it all starts back up again and we all meet and we say a few things and then
I worked in the Opelika City School System.
Okay.
There were 2 people vying to be school principal. One black with a doctorate, one white without. When it was all said and done, the white without got the job. The black was excluded. That's privilege. It was here in Opelika.
Gotcha.
So it happens. It's happening all the time. I mean, I've been in on personal situations where I was excluded over a white person because of my race. So it's a privilege to be white in America, and there's no way around it.
Okay. Okay. Other thoughts? Other comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
Well, my experience here in growing up in Opelika and growing up when they said school went to integration, and then living in the neighborhood that I live here in Ward 2, right in the area of downtown Opelika, there's privilege you can see every day. A lot of our concerns are not about Ward 3, 4, and 5. It's about Ward 1 and 2 being as prosperous as those wards are.
Okay.
And then when we go across the railroad track and see all this development going on, and we have a city with a $150 million budget, and no one can find $5 a foot in Ward 2 or Ward 1, that's right. That's privilege.
Okay. Good. He said, yeah, I can. He said wards 1 and 2. Those are the ones that do not receive the attention that the other wards, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, very good. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Is this working?
Are you? Yes, I hear it now. Yes. Now it's not. Yeah. Tap it.
Hello?
Yes, hear you now.
Yeah. I don't know exactly how to say this. say it. That's good advice. Yeah, thank you. I want you to know, first of all, where my heart is. And my heart is that there's no difference between me, this lady right here, except our skin color. And in my eyes, there is no difference at all. And that's the way that my wife of 52 years feels as well. I'm obviously white, and I feel that I have been privileged. And I'll tell you what that privilege has consisted of as I see it. And I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. I was privileged to be born into a family which was not wealthy, but I had a mother and I had a father who loved me deeply and who cared for me and who raised me to have respect for all people. And there were some white people that I did not respect, and there still are, and there were some black people that I did not respect, and there still are. And they raised me to understand what discipline meant. And that discipline meant that when I came in from school in the afternoon, before I could go out and go squirrel hunting with a BB gun, I had to get my homework done. And I was made to do that. And if my grades didn't hold up when I was in school, I was disciplined and I was required to do things to correct that situation. And I was raised in church. On Sundays, there wasn't a question about where we were going to be. And not just church, but Sunday school as well. And this is a little funny, I guess, but I had 3 younger brothers. And we didn't get our hair cut in town because we grew up out in the country. And my folks had some hair clippers from Sears and Roebuck. And on Sunday morning, we'd all sit on a little gray stool about this high, and my father would cut our hair. And the 4 of us fought to see who could go first, because the longer those clippers ran, the hotter they got. And you did not want to be last. But we were in Sunday school and church, and we were raised like that. And then when I got out of high school, I worked at a lumber mill in the summertime out on stacking lumber. And my parents required of me that I take a test, I forget, SAT, ACT, I don't remember what it was called back then. And they required of me that I try to go to college. And so I started over here at Auburn, and I didn't do too well, and I wasn't doing too well, and then we met, and we got married when Margot was 18, I was barely 21. And we didn't have any money to go and do other things with, and she showed me how to study, and so I studied, and my grades started getting better. And then, and this is really important to me, I got to go to law school. But I didn't get to go to law school because of the color of my skin. I had to take a national exam called the Law School Acceptance Test, LSAT. And if you didn't score a certain level on that, you just didn't get to go. I don't care who you were. That was my experience anyway.
Sure.
So I got in and had a classmate whose name was Michael Figures, and he was from Mobile. He was a black guy. And he and I were friends. He's a big, tall guy. He was a lot smarter than I was, and he graduated a lot higher in the class. He was there not because of any kind of privilege, but because he had worked his way into that. And he did exceptionally well, and he became a state senator. He became a state senator. And unfortunately, he died a few years back of a heart attack. Maybe some of you knew Michael Figures, but he was a great guy. So I'm white, and I have been privileged, but it has not been because of the color of my skin. It's because of how I was raised, what I was taught, and things were required of me. And I just feel it's important for me to say those things.
Great. Well, and let me tell you something. There's been some research done on this. I'm going to read an essay, and again, this is an essay from Peggy McIntosh. And at the time, it was known as being groundbreaking. And it was on white privilege, and this was back in 1988. And this is what she said. These are her words. She said, for many, white privilege was an invisible force that white people needed to recognize. It was being able to walk into a store and find that the main displays of shampoo and pantyhose were catered towards your hair type and skin tone. It was being able to turn on the television and see people of your race widely represented. It was being able to move through life without being racially profiled or unfairly stereotyped. So that was her thought and feeling on white privilege back in 1988. Have we made some progress since then? I think so, but I think some individuals would say a lot of this still exists today. I think so. Great discussion, but again, we want to keep things moving because we want to get to even more questions. Right now, it seems that maybe hate crimes are on the rise. The country certainly is divided. It feels divided. It looks divided. Why do you think we are so divided, and why are we having so many issues around hate in this particular country at this particular time? What are your thoughts on that? Why is this country divided, and why are we having so many issues that appear to be hateful in nature in this country at this time?
I think it's starting from the head, from our president.
Okay.
We were having problems, but he came in and this thing started building up. And if you look at the rallies that he have, all of this is out there. And it just starts spreading like wildfire.
Sure.
And that brought it all out from what I could see. It had been hidden, but no longer is it hidden because we have an open leader.
Yes. Well, and I think for anyone, and we have city council individuals in here, the mayor left, but we have people in here that are public positions. I think you do got to carry yourself a certain way as a public official. I think that's part of the job. Yeah, we want you to be open and honest, but there's a certain decorum, I feel, that a leader should represent. Again, if I am a leader of a community, yes, I am a black man, but I'm also representing everyone in this community, and I should act accordingly. And so I do think that leadership matters, and it matters how you carry yourself as a leader. So I would agree with you. You got to carry yourself a certain way as a leader. Yes, ma'am.
I stopped taking the newspaper because I got tired of seeing all the negative stuff about my community. And the same thing could be going on in the other community, but you never saw it.
Yes. Yeah.
All kinds of things like that. Hidden racism has been the norm, but now it is out in the open.
It is.
And I don't know if I'm wrong for saying this, but
Speak your mind.
I think God has a way that's mighty sweet. He is bringing us together. And like it or not, there's going to come a day when you're not going to have just all these different races. You're just going to have mixed people.
Yes.
Because that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
I have a little problem with the melting pot.
Okay.
Because when they started that melting pot, we lost all of us, all of our traditions and beliefs, because we melted into what society said we ought to be.
Right.
So we adopted the salad bowl, because in that salad bowl, you have a mixture of everybody, and each one respects the other. A salad, to me, if it doesn't have some lettuce and some tomatoes, some whatever else, it's just not a salad.
It's just not that good, right?
Right. Okay. But the bottom line is, we let the newspapers, media, period, dictate to us how we treat each other. And if we are people of faith, we know the most segregated place in the world is on Sunday morning.
I've heard that one.
And how can we say we love each other when we can't even worship together?
Yes, very good point.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Let me just read you some information here on hate crimes in America. About 60% of crimes regarding hate crimes are motivated by race. I think we all knew that. Attacks against Latino and transgender people have rose significantly since 2018. Since 2016, crimes targeting Latinos rose by 41%, and hate crimes against transgender people increased by 34% in just 1 year. So again, there's a lot of this hate talk, hate speech that's out there. It's impacting people's lives each and every day. And I think that's part of the reason why we are divided as a country. And if we are to come together, I think we got to deal with some of those issues throughout the country. Any other comments on this? Yes, ma'am, and then we'll go to you in the back. You already have the mic? Okay, we'll go to you.
Is it on?
Just hold it. There you go. Try again. Let's see. Just press it, yeah.
Okay. Now, oh yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I was just going to say that we can no longer disagree. I mean, we're a country that everybody has to be right, and I think that healthy debate is good. I mean, back in the day, we used to could have debates and not all feel like we had to be right about everything, and now it's just the person's crucified if they're wrong.
Well, it seems like your team has to win, right? And even if the other team, wins, back in the day, if the other team won, you said, okay, but how can we find a way to work together? Because, I mean, we all are still here, live here. But nowadays, it seems like, okay, if your team wins, that's it. My team doesn't have a shot. You're going to take the ball and do whatever you want to do. I don't have a voice. And so my team wants to fight real hard to win so that way I can do the same thing your team did to me. So it's almost like tit for tat. I want to get you back for something that you did to me. And we can't be that way within this society. Okay, I think she wanted to go next. Oscar, and I'll come to you, and then we got to move on for sake of time. Ms. Stringer right here, yes.
Oh, I was just going to say, people are not thinking. They're not thinking because at the end of the day, and when it's all said and done, and when it's all over, and someone mentions something about faith, God is not going to say because you're white, you going here, and because you're black, you going here. It's not going to work like that. So people, they're not thinking. You're going to have to either live the life or done what you're supposed to have done. And this life depends on where you're going. It doesn't matter what race you are and who you are and how much money you have. So they're not thinking about that.
Gotcha.
So that's something to think about.
It is. All right, Oscar, and then we got to move on.
Well, here in Alabama, we're supposed to be the black belt for Christianity and all these things. But then when you go back through our history, you look at even just to the 1901 Constitution, all these things that was implemented to instill this into the future generations. And then for me to make a comment that would seem that I'm uplifting my community, if there is someone of a different race that don't like what I'm saying, I'm labeled a racist. But it's come from being in a community where you've seen your children suffer. You've seen your community suffer. You've seen the elderly go and make a way out of no way. And then when those opportunities avail itself to you, or you think they should be presented to you, and then just like the gentleman back here said, you've been omitted because of your race, but your skills and qualifications are top shelf. That's a strong hatred that you can never live down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I'll say this, and then we'll move on to the next question. And if we have time, we can come back and discuss this. I've been doing these presentations all over the place lately. I think they're needed, and I think that's a good thing. I was doing one this morning, and we had a conversation about Christianity. And, this country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And we had a deep discussion about that today. I don't want to go back into that discussion, but for the most part, they were saying that we haven't we as a country, haven't we had so many opportunities to get it right? From our founding, how we were founded. We were founded because, we were not getting equal representation from another country, and we wanted to fight for our rights. And then we wrote the Constitution saying, all men are equal, and we the people, not some of the people, but we the people, but then yet and still, we kind of still enslave people and stuff. Okay, but then take that incident, and then you go to, Abraham Lincoln and the freeing of the slaves. Okay, that's another opportunity for us to get it right, based off of those Christian values that the country was founded on, but for whatever reason, we didn't get it right then. And then there was another opportunity after that. And there were all these legislative acts, and then the civil rights movement. So this young man today was just saying, we've had so many opportunities to get it right. And even though we're getting a little bit better, why is it taking us so long to get this right if we are truly a Christian nation? And our hearts should be geared towards following the principles that are taught by the good book, or whatever religion you choose to follow. All of the religions that I've researched, they all kind of speak about people being equal and not mistreating individuals. And so this one lady said that she thought that people they like the idea of being associated or affiliated with religion, but they don't really practice it. She said that's the problem. They like saying, oh yeah, I go to this church or I do this, but they don't really practice it. And so she made a comment, but she said basically, yeah, they're the first ones in church and they show up, but on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they are doing a whole lot of other stuff, and they're not following those practices. And so I think you all are saying the same thing. We really got to understand what the good book is saying and what the good book is telling us, and then we got to change our hearts first and our minds, and we got to start implementing some of these things that we want to do across the bases, all races, for everyone. But let me move to the discussion, because again, this is great, and I want to keep it moving. I think that we are all probably here because of the incident, the tragic incident that occurred to Mr. Floyd, George Floyd. And so I'm going to call on you, Captain Healy, if you don't mind, trying to get a police perspective on this. But what are your thoughts on the George Floyd tragic event? How did you feel as a police officer, and what was your response to that particular situation?
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, I was here the other night and was asked the same question, so I want to try to give you the same answer. And what I said the other night was, it's something that I have thought about a lot. And one of the things that incident meant to me was, for the first time ever, and I've been policing for just shy of 30 years, is the first time ever that law enforcement across this nation, from top to bottom, came together as one group and said that behavior was wrong. That is not what we in police work stand for. That's unacceptable, and that should be dealt with. All these other incidents, all these other things that have happened to that point, there's been this air of, how did I describe it last Tuesday night, of defending, being defensive, and that kind of being the first reaction, pull back into a shell and try to defend what's going on. And so that incident was the first time that law enforcement stood up together, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the heads of the FOP, small agencies, middle-sized agencies, federal agencies, state agencies, everybody came together and stood together and said that was wrong, and that's bad.
And I know, again, I think there is a problem, or the recent events in history would tell us there is a problem or issue with the African American population and the police, or the African American Hispanic population and the police. And again, it's something that we all need to address. And I really appreciated that comment, because again, I think you're right. I turned the TV when that occurred. Every police officer that I heard from, that I spoke to directly, they were all saying the same thing. And other events that had occurred in the past, you never heard that before. We talk about the power of the police unions and things like that. And typically, if something happened, you would kind of give your standard answer. Well, let me review the situation. Let me see. And then they would kind of give you that answer. But with this incident, I really saw a change in how people were reacting. And then not only did the events occur not only did the protest occur in Minnesota where this event occurred, it was all across, not the country, the world. It was all across the world. And that shows you how an incident that can happen thousands of miles away can have an impact on little old Opelika, you know. And so it just goes to show you how connected we are with everything that's going on in the world. And I think also too, the other night, Captain Healy, you alluded to, you know, it's about building that trust so that if something does happen, you'll know, hey, we did, or we followed the proper procedures, and you know that because, again, we're transparent, we're open, and again, you know, we're all here for the same thing. We're all here for justice, and we want to make things right with everyone. Did you have a comment?
Just a quick comment. I am going to be serving as the next city council representative for Ward 2, and I've had an opportunity to meet. Give me your rank one more time. I want to make sure I get it right because I know that's important. Shane, Captain Shane. Okay. And I think, I hope we have a wonderful working relationship. I just really believe he has a heart for the people, and I'm excited about working with him. But I really wish during the George Floyd incident that we would have heard that statement from our police department. Do you all think that would have it would have made a tremendous difference to this community, because it does, I mean, we feel for that family, and every time an incident occurs like that, it has a profound effect throughout this community as well. And it makes us sit on pins and needles like, when is it our turn? And had we heard that statement similar to that, it would have given us an opportunity to breathe and relax. And it also would have given us an opportunity to come forward and support you. Because we would be able to say, our police department does not stand for that type of behavior. This is what they said.
Yes.
So thank you for saying that, and I hope going forward maybe we can do some stuff like that.
Kids are coming in the back. But while she's taking him the mic, I would just say, you know, the police, they have a difficult job. Like I was saying the other night, you know, if something occurs over here, we can dial 911 and then we can leave it alone. They can't. They got to go in there and they have to do whatever they need to do to resolve the situation. So that's why I was telling Captain Healy, we appreciate that kind of response. And I would agree with you, after that occurred, if you did hear directly from your police officers, that would make you feel better and you could provide support to them, because we're really all in this together. And I love the initiative, and I know it's just starting, but the Opelika Together, I think that's really going to bear some fruit that's going to be very beneficial to us all. Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I'm a former police officer, and I got scared to get stopped by the police after that incident.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I've been assigned as a chaplain for this police department. I talked to the chief, but I was afraid.
Yeah.
Because it said to me that I could be treated any kind of way because of my color.
Yeah.
And a statement like that would have helped me, because I didn't hear it.
Well, and we talked about this the other night too, but I'm sure as I'm looking throughout this audience, how many of you all have had that conversation either with your kids or your mom had that conversation with you about how to deal with the police? You know, when you stop, your hands up, already get your wallet out, no sudden moves, let them know everything that you're doing, all of that, you know, and that was my mom. There's 7 of us, and a few of you all know my mom, there's 7 of us, 4 boys, 3 girls. And she said, your goal is just to make it home every night. So if you're stopped by a police officer, do exactly what she said, do exactly what they say. And she said, if you're ever disrespected or feel like they're violating your rights, don't say a word. You bring that to me, and then I'll handle it through the proper channels. And so that was what we were taught growing up. Yes, ma'am, right here. No, it's not.
Is it on?
Okay, I thought I heard you. Yes.
There?
Yes, perfect.
That's white privilege.
That's white privilege, okay?
Because nobody in the white community is seeing that happen and is saying, is that going to be me next week? And nobody in the white community is being pulled over and is afraid that simply because of the color of their skin, that they're going to be shot in front of their 3 kids sitting in the car. That's white privilege.
One more, 2 more quick comments, and then we got to move on, okay? And we'll have some additional time to interact. I think she's in the back first, Tiffany. Yes, ma'am. Try to hold it, the little button. Okay. Okay, go ahead, start talking. It's not picking up.
Let's get you this one. We can't hear you. Sorry to interrupt you. Let's try that one. I thought about something that happened with Rodney King 28 years ago. And we're thinking, and you have to sit and you think about, okay, what's so different from 28 years ago to now? Because you have to look at it and say, okay, that was 28 years ago. Nothing happened. Here we are today. We know what's happened since. Are we going to come together, make a difference? That's just questions that you ask because it's been going on for so long. And it's not to ask you the question, but just to ask ourselves the question, how long are we going to allow this?
Yeah, I would agree. How long are we gonna allow this? Tiffany, this young lady, then you, Oscar, and then we'll move on, okay?
Yeah, I think she hit it when she stated that's white privilege. And I think that some people don't realize what us as black mothers to black sons have to go through. So I started having those conversations. I had that conversation with my son, maybe, 6 years old.
Yeah.
So and it's constant, even that he's 20 now. Whenever he leaves the house, I am fearful for his life. Wow. And unless you have a black child, it's going to be hard for you to even understand that. I always worry whether or not my son is going to come home. I tell him, look, don't forget, if you get pulled over, you sit still, keep your hands on the steering wheel. That is a conversation that he was like, I know, Mom. Or even when he have his friends over, I tell him that. I tell him, okay, you cannot have a group of friends in your car. Do not wear a hat or a bandana on your head or whatever. Those are things that black mothers have to drill in our son's head. And people just don't realize how hurtful that is as a parent to have to go through that and just to have that fear every time your son goes out. Even when you have a child that really doesn't, I guess would be considered a problem child to get in trouble. But it's just something that I haven't met a black mother who does not have that conversation with her kid. So that's definitely privilege.
Sure. I think she had a comment, then Oscar, and then we'll move on.
As a grandparent of a black male, I stayed up at night. I couldn't sleep, all of this going on. I'm on my knees every night trying to find out where he is and is he okay, and he's off at school. All I could do was cry out to God to help us. And you know what it's going to take? It's going to take black and whites coming together. We tried it on our own. It's going to take you joining. When we had that Black Lives Matter march here in Opelika, do you know it was just as many or more whites as it was out there at blacks? For the first time in my life in the city of Opelika, I felt as though we had the support. I felt the love. And there were whites coming out hugging. We're with you. We're going to do this. And one lady came up, June, I never forget her. She said, we're going to stand with you. As long as it takes, we're going to stand. I developed that relationship with her, and I felt like our hurt was there and the compassion that it brought to us. And I've seen many things in this city, many injustices through my lifetime. Many things had it done to me, my family, everybody's family, but that particular time, I felt love for my city. I felt real love for my city. I felt genuine compassion coming from my city. But it was a disappointment that it was not addressed to the city.
Sure. Well, thank you for your honest comments. We appreciate that. Oscar, right here.
Well, on behalf of the city of Opelika, I've been working with a different organization, Victory in Jesus, National Night Out, and these entities that we've had incidents that went down in the city, and I have to give Captain Healy, Chief McCare, their props. I've been through things in life, and I've had to deal with law enforcement in this situation. I've never blamed the law enforcement for what I done. If I had to go through an incarceration period, something stupid I had done. But I've always been treated with respect. I've never been treated in any ill way. And we've always invited them into our community not to be there to make an arrest, but to be there to show leadership and friendship so our children in our community can relate to them. They have always answered the call. They've always been there for us. Now, things that are going on around the world, we can't do that and can't help that. But I feel that these officers in our community have shown some exemplary example of helping them. When our children go out there and make a mistake, it's their job to correct it.
Okay. Let me move the discussion, and again, we'll come back to this because we're going to have time through this other question. We're going to be able to come back to that. But again, just looking at some numbers, and again, these are numbers that are already out here, but the rate at which Black Americans are killed by police is much more disproportionately than other races. 32 per million blacks are killed by police compared to 24 per million Hispanics and 13 per million white, and the other races is 4 per million. So, but I gotta confess, it's not just police. It's not just that area. It seems that there's discrimination or there's issues regarding discrimination in every sector of our society. Let me read you some numbers. Housing. Racial disparities are in the housings. African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans are disadvantaged in their ability to build equity and to accumulate wealth. I don't know if you guys saw this example the other night. I think it was on ABC News. They were doing this assessment, and this young lady, it was a black lady, she was married to a white man, but her house, they were selling her house. I don't recall what city it was, but they were doing an experiment. So she left pictures of only black people in her home. So when an appraiser came in, nice home, they appraised it at $300,000. So then she removed all of her pictures and put pictures up of her husband's family, all white pictures. And the appraiser came, well, another appraiser came, I think with the same company, but another appraiser came, and they appraised their house at $460,000. And again, just based off of the pictures, I know some realtors, and I've heard things like that. And so, but this just goes to show you about how that can affect your wealth over the period of your life. And that's your kids' education, that's your kids' growth and development. So, but that's just one area, housing. Another area is health. In the financial game, I want to say Wells Fargo. They've been sued several times by their mistreatment of Hispanics and African Americans and Native Americans. So this one Harvard professor, I was listening to him. He said that being a person of color in America is bad for your health. And so all of these other things. So again, yes, we know that there's some issues with the police. But it's not just the police, it's in every sector of our community. And so my question to you is, what can we do as a community? And I know we can't do everything, but what can we do to maybe end some of this discrimination or to get policy or people in places that will advocate on behalf of all of us to bring us together as a community, as a country, and to do what's right. Forget about policies. Like I said, the policies are already on the book. What can we do to get people in office or to get policies implemented that will do what's morally right? What do you think? Yes, sir. Haven't heard from you tonight.
How you doing?
How are you?
I'm sitting here listening to the statistics and all you giving out.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of that is we've been using the word of systemic racism lately, white privilege lately. I don't want to offend anyone, but we know for a fact a few minutes ago, all people of color in here have spelled it out. I commend my brother here for saying what he's saying, but in my case, I have seen a lot of disproportionate police action in Opelika, not called for. Some have happened to me. I even went to jail for asking the police why he arrested my brother. Interfering with an officer while making an arrest. I did 14 days for that in the city of Opelika, just for asking, why are you arresting My brother was just, he was drunk. He was out in the public. He hadn't been out there like that. But I just want to get that out. Now, as a people, we know that this been going on from the beginning of time. As a black man and a black woman in America, it's been happening all the time. We cannot blame all Caucasian people for the action of others. Sure. Because, as it just was pointed out by Kathy, that there have been white people all throughout our lives and history have helped us come along. But I don't think it's ever going to be settled in these United States because they were built upon that. They came here, we just celebrate George Washington the other day. Columbus, I mean. Discover America. How you discover somewhere where people already exist? You don't discover them. They already were here. They came along and took it. And so we have it took us a long time to even get Martin Luther King as a holiday. Yeah. But we celebrate all these different people who have had slavery from the beginning of our history in these United States. Now, black people have come a long way. We have accomplished a lot of things. I even hear a lot of people be saying they'll use a black person. He's doing well. He's doing very well. Even if it was said to our former black president, oh, he speaks so well.
Gotcha.
What is that saying? Because they are educated, but there are people who are educated who are still not moving up to that height, what you spoke of a few minutes ago, simply because of their color. Yeah. Even if I may say so, even our present president discriminated against a black couple that wanted to move in one of his buildings. I don't think that it's going to ever end, but we can do better as a people because, as you spoke of a few minutes ago, we all supposed to be God people.
Right.
First Baptist full of people every Sunday. Greater Peace and all the rest of these churches around here preaching about how good they are, but we're not living up to it. We steadily holding our brothers down in one form or another. But to finish up,
yeah, so what's
I'm just praying and hoping that by some miraculous miracle, only God can provide, that this will happen.
Okay, good deal. I thought we had a comment in the back. Yes, sir, go ahead.
In 1640, the first slave codes appeared when an African-American indentured and a white indentured ran away from their master. The white indentured was given another year of extended duty. The black was put in perpetual servitude for the rest of his natural life. That's on the books. Until we change how we look at the laws, I mean all of the laws, until states change their constitutions to get rid of those codes that are on the books, until the United States eliminate the section that says we are 3/5 a person in the Constitution, we are never going to move to any place but where we are. Amen. I believe in prayer, and I believe in the process of prayer. I believe that Christ can do everything, but Christ can only move when we move. Amen. And if we don't ever move, Christ will never move. Okay. So my suggestion would be that we first reevaluate all of the state constitution, take out all of those sections that make certain people privileged, and then start by writing it so that everybody is at an equal level. And then, and only then, will we start to move toward equality in Alabama and in America.
You know, that's a good point about the state's constitution. I participated, this was many years ago, they were trying to change the Alabama state constitution. They had this mock scenario. It was all in the papers. It was years ago. But again, the legislature decided not to do that. And so again, I think that's us. Yeah, she wants to go.
Which one?
Yeah. So yes, I think you're absolutely right, but changing the Constitution is the way to go. But there are some hurdles to that, because again, you gotta elect state legislators that will be willing to do that, and thus far, they have not been willing, or agreed to do that. So, go ahead, Tiffany, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, you, and then we'll go to Tiffany. I'm sorry, go ahead. I can't hear you, try it again.
There it is. Is it on?
Perfect, yes, yeah.
So you should have given everyone a tutorial just on how to use this thing.
We're still learning, right?
Is it still on? Okay. I'm going to be a little more practical.
Okay.
When you ask that question, how can we change things?
Yes, what can we do?
I look at Opelika.
Absolutely.
And what can Opelika do? And just a short little background. I lived in Auburn for 27 years, but I moved to Opelika, and I've been here 2.5 years, and I'm really enjoying meeting everyone and learning about Opelika. And one of the things that I've been able to do is meet more people in the Black community. And one of the things that I consistently hear is that the city government does not respond to the needs of the Black community. And I'll give you 2 things in particular.
Sure.
One is the Carver-Jeter plan.
Yes.
The Carver-Jeter plan was passed or whatever in 1994. 26 years, you'd think something would be done on that, especially after Tigertown came in and all of that tax revenue started rolling in. And then it was reapproved or something like that in 2004, somewhere. You know, that's 16 years ago, and still nothing is being done in Carver-Jeter. So when you ask what can be done, my initial response is the city can stand up and do what it said it was going to do 26 years ago. The other is that it's really nice that Opelika is going around and building sidewalks and making sidewalks ADA compliant and things like that. But there are neighborhoods in this town where there are no sidewalks. And there are neighborhoods in this town where when we have heavy rain like we did this past weekend, that water's got no place to go. Because community members ask for sidewalks to be built and for the drainage systems to be repaired, but it never happens. So part of me wonders, and part of me really respects the Black citizens who showed up tonight, because they've been telling the city what they need for years, and the city ignores them. You know, I'm impressed that y'all are here.
Let's go. We'll go in the back.
Yeah, I think everything just goes back to value. Even when you were talking about Black Lives Matter, and I stated value, you put your money in areas that you value. And when you're not putting your money in those areas that are just devalued, or whatever the word would be, then they kind of go down. And that's where the crime and everything like that comes in at. But I think that I'm excited about what's happening right now. And I know a lot of things have happened in the past, and we've had the opportunity to get things right. Hopefully, these sessions will turn into something to where we'll see where some money is going. I think moving forward, I think your question was, what can we do now? We really need to look at our hiring practices here in the city, because we do have low representation. I know of African-American people when we make up nearly 40% of the population, and that's even in leadership. So we have to be creative and actually say that, or acknowledge that we do have an issue. You know, we need to go have recruitment fairs to try to recruit more minorities in our area, that's what we need to do. If we have people here who would be good leaders who are already employed with the city, we need to start a minority leadership program. There are things that we can do to get more of our citizens involved. We have boards, and we have people who are on boards and have been on city boards for 30 years or more. You know, we need term limits on that so that we will have we can get more people, or give more people the opportunity to be involved in our city, and we can get a more diverse crowd. and we just keep growing as a city. So those are just a few things that I think that we can start doing right now to make our city a better place.
No, good point. Population-wise, I think it's about 50% white, about 44% black, about 4% Hispanic, and I think less than 1% Native American, less than 1%, maybe 1% Asian. But those are roughly the numbers of the breakdown of the demographics of the population. One thing that I always hear, and I'm sure you've heard it before, I'm sure many of you all have heard it before, we don't get enough qualified African-American applicants, right? Have we heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
And my question to them is that, what are you doing differently? Are you reaching out to various groups and entities where African-Americans tend to be? I work in leadership, and I do leadership programs all across the state, and in a lot of cases, those leadership programs would not be reflective of that local community. And they'll say the same thing, and I'll say, well, have you reached out over here? Well, no, I haven't thought about that. We always just put something in the paper, and we take applications as they come. Well, many people nowadays, the way in which the world has changed, we don't necessarily get a paper delivered to our house anymore. And so, again, finding ways to reach those underserved groups, I think is very important. I approached Captain Healy about some programs that I've seen that have been very effective working with the police and the minority population, and we're going to have a conversation. I certainly want to give him the information. And so I think that all your thoughts are wonderful and valued. We're capturing those thoughts, and then, like I said, we are going to present this to City Council and the mayor. We're going to talk to other groups too to let them know what we can bring to the table to help, because when I first agreed to do this on behalf of the city and working with the city, I told the mayor this could not just be an academic exercise. We couldn't just continue to get people together to talk and then nothing. And then something else will happen, then we'll get together, we'll talk, and then nothing. And so my goal is to take these observations, primarily your comments, and to make recommendations and to say, hey, what can we do and what can I advocate for? But also, let me take a few more comments, and then I have one more thing I want to say, but I do want to get your comments. Yes, sir, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So much I want to say.
Yes.
Where do we go from here? I think you said it best when you said you spoke with the mayor and you shared with him that you hope this wouldn't just be an academic exercise. And I think that's what I was saying before. I hope that from this is a conversation, an exercise that can continue. I met Captain Shane Healy when I first got here, and I think the thing that I've been saying to him every day or every time we meet is PAL. And PAL is an acronym for Police Athletic League. I grew up in PAL.
Okay.
I don't have any disdain for law enforcement. I think we have to be a partnership, the law enforcement and our community. I've been in affordable housing management for a long time. My name is Matthew McClammy. I'm the executive director for the Opelika Housing Authority. And when I came to Opelika, one of the first things I looked at was crime statistics. And I looked at Opelika, population right around 30,000, and I looked at Auburn, population right around 60,000, but the crime here was twice as high as Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at where the crime was happening, and it was all in the black community. And I'm like, what's going on? I went and I met with Chief McCarron and the captains, and told them, we want some presence, and we want to work together to kind of cure some of these problems. We'll do our part. We'll work to make sure that we're communicating, and it wasn't to impose any restrictions on the community. It was to offer a sense of fairness and commitment and community service to people in the community that didn't deserve to be ignored.
Uh-huh.
And what I find, I've done this in a lot of cities. a lot of cities. Los Angeles, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Miami. I can name probably 10 states and 2 and 3 cities that I've done this in. And it's always the same case. I call it the railroad track scenario. Yeah. On one side of the tracks, it's almost like there's not a concern. And then on the other side, there's like this overbearing concern. And I've always fought for that shared concern.
Sure.
So where do we go from here? We got to work together.
We got you.
I think that this is a good start. I think that everybody in these forums have to come in with an open heart, with some ideas to put on the table to get us to move forward. And I really hope that happens.
There's we should have a conversation. There's a Neighbor Works started years ago, and I worked on it before, but they have a housing authority leadership program. It's been very successful. So I would love to share that with you, because I think that's something that would really empower the people in this community that are in public housing. So.
I would love to have that conversation, because we're going to do our part. I can commit that the Opelika Housing Authority is going to do its part. So.
Let's go here first, and then we'll work our way back up. Okay, yeah, right here, and then we'll go here.
I'd just like to piggyback on a little bit what he just mentioned. I was saying, I'm thinking about what you said a few minutes ago about the ratio of blacks in city government and in the just city work businesses. Well, I say that wrong. That work for the city. All of the kids that go to school, leave Old Black and go to college, there have been hundreds that leave Old Black because there's not, Old Black do not treat them like other cities treat them. People go and leave, they go to school, I'm not never coming back to Old Black. Old Black have lost more youth to not contributing to their welfare and their living. Now, the city, every job in this city is disproportionately employed black people. Everywhere, all across the board, from the light company to the trash company, to the weed eating company, to the money company. Everywhere you can see in the city of Old Black, way it is ran, is disproportionately employed by blacks.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
And there are lots, excuse me for saying, but there are lots of people, like you just mentioned, they're not going to look for them. They'll call their friend in California and put them in a position. They'll do that quick. But there are people here in this Old Black who are just qualified as anybody else in this United States. They hold some of these positions.
Sure. I want to get them in, then I get some comments, and then I want to hurry up because I want to get your comments before people start to leave. So, yes, sir, go ahead.
My name is Robert Boston, and I'm the Ward Council.
Can you hear it?
I'm the Ward 3 council person.
That one's not about to go there.
One of these, and I'll be here for more of them because I'm interested in hearing what they have to say.
Sure.
When I ran for my position,
Can't
when
hear?
I ran for my position, I told people that I would represent Ward 3, but I was running for Opelika.
Okay.
And that's my position. That's why I'm here. But I have 2 or 3 observations, and I grew up poor. My daddy made 50 cents an hour. The year I was born, he made $2,600 in annual income. But I worked, I got an education, and by the grace of God, I'm where I am today. So I understand about being poor, and I understand about things you talk about. But one of the lessons I've learned in life is that anger only eats me up.
It is.
And what I learned was I had to put my past behind me. Okay? It's my opinion, we're not going to change the past. It's been done, and it's not going to change. But we have a golden opportunity to change the future. Okay.
They said they can't hear you. Just hold it on the sides. Yeah, don't push the button.
So we have a golden opportunity to change the future if we work together. And to work together, I can't be mad at you, and you can't be mad at me. We got to be glad with each other.
Yes.
We talk about being Christians. We got to act like Christians.
Yes.
And so my challenge is for all of us to put aside our prejudices, our anger, our past, and let's pick it up and go forward and make a change. You asked a question a while ago, what have you done to help somebody of a minority? I just recently met a young woman who works at Lowe's in the paint department. And so I'm always in there in Lowe's, and I'm always in the paint department because I have some rental property and that sort of thing. And I noticed this young lady's pretty darn sharp. She's got a great name. Her name is Never Shy.
Okay.
Thought it's a great name. So I started talking to her. I found out she's got a master's degree. And I said, what would you really like to do with your master's degree? She said, I want to be a veterinarian. I'm a veterinarian.
Perfect.
She's got a darn 4.0 from graduate school. You know, she can get into veterinary school. So I got her lined up, told her how to make an application, made her get some connections, and she may not get into veterinary school, but I would bet my boots right now she's going to get into veterinary school.
Yes.
And we got to look for people. I don't care if they're green. We got to look for those opportunities to educate people, to help people, and look for the good and not the bad.
Yes.
That's the end of my sermon. I'll pass a collection plate now.
It's time to collect. Well, let me just say this very. Thank you. Go ahead. No, you go ahead, and then I'll.
And I just wanted to say the key thing for all of us is to get out and vote.
Okay. Yes. Let me just say very quickly. I love all of those comments. You know, with me, I'm all about empowerment. That's what we do. We go around and we work with groups, churches, organizations, communities, you name it. We probably work with them, and we've probably been in some of the roughest neighborhoods in New Orleans and places outside of Milwaukee and all throughout the country where we are trying to teach people about their own significance and their own power to empower them to actually move forward whatever their agenda is. And I say that to say that you are absolutely right. You know, whenever I start talking about empowering people, I always start with myself. I just recently saw something in the paper the other day about there's going to be some kind of job fair that the city of Opelika is hosting. And so I said to myself, what can I do to make sure that some of these underserved individuals within this community can actually maybe possibly participate in that. And so me and some of my colleagues were talking. We said, hey, you know, everybody's into Zoom right now. So, you know, we can't do anything on the skill and education side. Like, I can't give you a BA degree in 2 weeks. I can't do that. But what I can do is that I can work with these individuals and show them what a resume is supposed to look like. I can show them or do mock job interviews with them and show them what individuals are going to be looking for. And then I've also worked with this city, Hobson City, which was the first African-American city in the state of Alabama. We're working now where we are actively going out to employers. We're getting information from them saying, hey, what do you need? What type of skills do you need? What's required? And then we're going back to these groups within the community and we're saying, hey, this is what you need to start doing so that when you finish high school or if you're already qualified, this is what you need to do so that you can get a job at some of these companies. And so I guess my challenge to you all is that, hey, we're going to take all your recommendations and we're going to give them to the city. But then we have to be an advocate for those recommendations so that the city will agree to move forward with some. But then on the flip side, we don't have to wait on the city. You know, you can take actions by helping individuals in your community, like the gentleman said, how he helped the young lady at Lowe's. I've done that before. If someone was interested in grad school, I've written them a letter of recommendation, or I've introduced them to the chair of that particular department when I was at Auburn. So always think about what we can do individually, and I think if we think that way, then we will start to move the ball forward. If you ever sit and just wait on another organization or a government, you'll be waiting forever, as we already know. That's why we're still where we are today, and we haven't progressed even more. So I know it's getting late. I know it's been a long day. I want to say I think this has been a wonderful discussion. I appreciate all of you all's comment, and you know I want to do whatever I can to help us to be better and stronger as a city. And I think it really starts with you all. So would you all please give yourselves a round of applause? I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to kind of say some final thing before I go. I appreciate every single person that came out. Even if you didn't make a comment tonight, your presence means something because it's going to take everybody to resolve this. And I want to also thank Captain Shane Healy as well, because we weren't here today to give the kudos and pats on the back. And he took the criticism and hopefully, we'll take that back because it was constructive, and then hopefully can make some changes. But this is where it starts. And to the people that are in the room that don't look like me, thank you, because I do know, because white privilege has existed so long, you may not even know. You may not even know that you do have this advantage, that others that look like me may not. So thank you for coming. When you do this again, please invite others to come. This is where it starts. But we're going to leave tonight on a positive note. Love, peace, and soul. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful, wonderful discussion.
Also, real quick, about that hiring event, I just thought I'd make an announcement since all y'all are here, if y'all are not following the City of Opelika page. On Friday, November 6th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Opelika hiring event will be hosted at the Opelika Sportsplex, and there's over 200 positions available.